The alien queen summoned me, and her request left me stunned before the galaxy. The chamber doors sealed behind me with a hiss that echoed like a death sentence. I stood in the Hall of Convergence, where the 73 species of the Galactic Assembly had watched empires rise and fall for millennia. Today, every seat was filled. Thousands of eyes, some compound, some crystalline, some that existed in spectrums I couldn't perceive, fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I was nobody. A logistics coordinator from Earth, third class. I processed supply manifests for mining operations on Titan. My greatest professional achievement was optimizing fuel rod delivery schedules by 11%. Yet here I stood, summoned by name across 600 light-years by Queen Javara herself, sovereign of the Ascendancy, the oldest and most powerful civilization in known space. The queen sat upon a throne of living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. She was massive, nearly 4 meters tall, her exoskeleton the color of deep space, marked with silver veins that denoted her royal bloodline. 4 arms rested on the throne's armrests with perfect symmetry. Her crown wasn't metal or jewels, but a neural lattice that interfaced directly with the Assembly's communication network, allowing her thoughts to be broadcast across the galaxy when she chose. She hadn't moved since I entered. Hutton acknowledged my presence. The silence stretched until my heartbeat became thunder in my ears. Captain Marcus Chen. Her voice came not from her mandibles, but from the air itself, translated instantly into my neural implant. "You are confused." I swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Majesty. You wonder why I have summoned a human of no rank, no title, no significance? Those eyes, 8 of them, arranged in geometric precision across her angular face, studied me like I was a specimen under glass. You wonder if this is an error." The thought crossed my mind. A ripple moved through the assembled delegates. The Kresh ambassador's thermal signature flared. Orange, shock or anger, I couldn't tell. The Pelothian envoy's translation tentacles twitched with what might have been amusement or disdain. "There is no error." The queen raised one hand, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. It showed a star chart, but not one I recognized. 17 days ago, our deep space monitoring array detected an anomaly at the edge of the Void Nebula. A structure. Ancient. Predating all known civilizations by conservative estimates of 4 billion years. 4 billion years. When that thing was built, Earth was still molten rock. We sent a research vessel, the Eternal Radiance, crewed by our finest xenoarchaeologists and equipped with technology that has unlocked the secrets of dead worlds across 1,000 systems. The Queen's voice dropped, and I heard something I never expected from a being of her power: uncertainty. They activated something. A defense system. A guardian. We do not know. What we do know is that the Eternal Radiance is gone. 17 scientists, my daughter among them. The chamber erupted. Delegates stood, their various appendages waving in agitation, translator nodes creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. The Queen didn't silence them with a command. She simply waited, perfectly still, until the noise died under the weight of her presence. We sent a military vessel, the Dreadnought Skybreaker, armed with weapons capable of sterilizing planets. The hologram shifted, showing the sleek, deadly profile of an Ascendancy warship. It never fired a shot. The structure activated the same defense protocol. The ship vanished. "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely audible.
"What does this have to do with me?"
"We attempted diplomatic contact." The structure responded in 73 languages, every language spoken by every species in this assembly. The Queen leaned forward, and I felt the full weight of her attention press down on me like gravity. "And one more." The hologram changed. Text appeared, floating in the air. I recognized it immediately. English. But not modern English. The syntax was archaic, formal, the kind of language that belonged in museums. "Send the one who saved them. Send Marcus Chen. Send him alone, or send no one at all." My legs nearly gave out. "That's impossible. I haven't done anything that would..." "We searched your records, every database humanity maintains. Every social network, every employment file, every medical scan." The Queen's voice was iron wrapped in silk. "We found nothing to explain this request, yet the structure knows your name. It knows your species. It demands you specifically. Your Majesty, there must be a mistake." "There is no mistake," The shout came from the Queen's left, from a smaller Ascendancy noble whose markings identified her as a military commander. "This is clearly a human trap, a conspiracy to—" "Commander Screeth." The Queen didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The commander fell silent immediately. "You forget yourself." A child's voice cut through the tension, high and clear. "Mother, why doesn't he remember?" A small figure emerged from behind the Queen's throne. A juvenile Ascendancy, barely a meter tall, her exoskeleton still pale with youth. She moved with the unsteady gait of childhood, but her eyes held the same penetrating intelligence as her mother's. The Queen's posture shifted almost imperceptibly. "Zakara, you were instructed to remain. But, Mother, if the structure knows him and he doesn't remember, maybe his memory was taken." The child looked directly at me, tilting her head in that distinctly alien gesture of curiosity. "Maybe he needs to go there to remember. Maybe that's why it wants only him." The silence that followed was absolute. I stared at the child, and something shifted in my mind. Not a memory, but the ghost of one, like a word on the tip of my tongue that I couldn't quite speak. My hands trembled. "Your Majesty," I managed, "I swear I don't know why that thing knows my name. I don't know what it wants. I'm a logistics coordinator." I pushed numbers around spreadsheets. "I'm not a soldier, not a diplomat, not a scientist. You are what it asked for." The Queen stood, and her full height dominated the chamber. "My daughter is in there, Captain Chen. If there is even the smallest chance she lives, I will seize it. You will travel to the structure, you will discover why it knows you, and you will bring my daughter home. And if I refuse, then I will dismantle your homeworld piece by piece until I find someone it will accept." The words were delivered without malice, without anger, simple fact spoken by someone with the power to make it reality. "But I do not believe you will refuse, because you are human, and humans do not abandon those in need. It is, paradoxically, both your greatest weakness and your only worthwhile quality." The child, Zakara, stepped closer to me, ignoring the sharp warning click from her mother's mandibles. She reached out with one small hand and placed it against my palm. Her exoskeleton was cool and smooth. "Please find my sister," she whispered. She always reads me stories before sleep. I looked down at this alien child, then up at her mother, then at the thousands of beings watching this moment. I thought about my tiny apartment on Titan, my comfortable routine, my unremarkable life. I thought about the ancient structure waiting in the dark, holding secrets and dangers I couldn't begin to imagine. "I'll need a ship," I said quietly. The Queen's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "You shall have the finest vessel in my fleet. You shall have provisions, equipment, anything you require." She paused. "Except company. You go alone, as the structure demanded. When do I leave?" "Immediately." 23 hours later, I sat in the command chair of the Whisper of Dawn, a scout vessel so advanced it made Earth's best technology look like stone tools. The autopilot was engaged, following coordinates that led into a region of space marked on no human charts. Through the viewport, the Void Nebula grew larger, its purple and black clouds roiling with unnatural patterns. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The structure appeared without warning, emerging from the nebula like a leviathan rising from deep water. It was enormous, easily 50 kilometers long, shaped like nothing I could describe, its surface covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. No lights, no emissions, just the dead, dark presence of something impossibly old. My communication console chimed, a message, text only, in that same archaic English. "Welcome home, Marcus Chen. We have been waiting."
Home.
The word echoed in my skull as my ship was drawn forward by forces I couldn't measure, toward a docking port that opened like an eye. I unbuckled my restraints and stood, my legs unsteady. Whatever was about to happen, whatever I was about to discover, I knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same. The airlock cycled. The door opened. I stepped into the ancient dark and remembered everything. The memories hit like a tidal wave, drowning me in images and sensations that couldn't be mine but were. I saw stars being born. I watched galaxies collide in slow motion across millions of years. I felt the weight of eons pressing down on me, the loneliness of vast time, the desperate hope of beings who knew extinction approached and fought against it with everything they had. I collapsed to my knees on the smooth floor of the structure, gasping for air that tasted of ozone and minerals I had no names for. The corridor around me was alive with soft blue light that pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. Or was my heartbeat matching it? The walls were seamless, organic yet metallic, warm to the touch when I pressed my shaking hands against them for support. "Easy, Captain Chen." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, still speaking that formal English. "The reintegration process is traumatic for biological minds. Your species was not designed to hold these memories. Hide them in the deepest parts of your consciousness where even you could not access them." "Who are you?" I managed, though my tongue felt thick and clumsy. "What did you do to me?" "We are the Archivists. We are the last testimony of a civilization that perished before any current species evolved beyond single-celled organisms. And we did not do this to you, Marcus Chen. You volunteered." I pushed myself upright, leaning heavily against the wall. The corridor stretched ahead, curving gently out of sight. Behind me, my ship sat in the docking bay, a tiny mote of modern technology in a structure that predated continental drift on Earth. That's impossible. I'm 37 years old. I was born on Earth, raised in New Seattle. I have memories of my childhood. All real, but also incomplete. A doorway irised open to my right, and the light beyond it beckoned. "Please proceed to the central chamber. Your questions will be answered there." The Queen's daughter is being held in medical stasis, unharmed. But there are protocols that must be observed before we can release her. I thought about turning around, getting back in my ship, running as far and fast as possible. But Jukara's small hand against mine, her whispered plea, kept my feet moving forward. The corridor opened into a chamber that stole my breath. It was vast, easily a kilometer across, its ceiling lost in darkness high above. In the center stood a circular platform surrounded by holographic displays showing star charts, biological data, technological schematics, information in formats both familiar, and suspended in a translucent cylinder of shimmering energy was Princess Zivra, the Queen's eldest daughter. Her exoskeleton was intact, her vital signs visible on the displays, alive but unconscious. "Why are you holding her?" I demanded. "What possible reason? She triggered our defense systems by attempting to hack our primary databanks." The archivist's voice held no anger, only statement of fact. "We do not respond with violence to such intrusions. We simply neutralize the threat and send a summons to the appropriate party, in this case you. I don't understand what makes me appropriate for anything. 17,000 years ago, your species did not exist in any form recognizable to current humanity. The beings who would eventually evolve into Homo sapiens were scattered tribes struggling to survive ice ages and predators. But they had something unique, a genetic potential, a neural plasticity that caught our attention as we conducted our final survey of the galaxy before our extinction. The holographic displays shifted, showing DNA helixes, brain scans, evolutionary trees. I recognized human genetic markers, but they were overlaid with complex mathematical notations that made my head spin. We were dying, Captain Chen. Our sun had become unstable. Our attempts to save it had failed. We had perhaps a century remaining before our entire species would be erased from existence, but we had accumulated 4 billion years of knowledge, art, philosophy, scientific achievement. We could not bear for it to simply vanish, forgotten, as if we had never been. So you built this place, an archive. We built 7, scattered across the galaxy, hidden in regions where they would not be easily found until species evolved to the appropriate technological level. But data alone is insufficient. Knowledge without context, without understanding of the hearts and minds that created it, becomes meaningless symbols. We needed inheritors, caretakers, species that could not only preserve what we had built, but understand why we built it. I was beginning to see where this was going, and the implications terrified me. You chose humanity. We chose 17 species across the galaxy, each with unique potential. But yes, humanity was among them. Specifically, we identified individuals within each species who possessed the precise neurological configuration to interface with our memory storage systems. You are one of 7 humans currently alive who have this capability. The others do not yet know. The platform beneath my feet began to rise, lifting me toward the center of the chamber. I grabbed the railing that materialized at my touch, my heart racing. 27 years ago, you were in a transport accident on Mars. Your shuttle lost cabin pressure for approximately 90 seconds before emergency systems engaged. You suffered severe hypoxia. Clinically, you were dead for 43 seconds. I remembered. God, I remembered. The cold, the panic, the darkness closing in. Waking up in the medical facility with doctors telling me how lucky I was to have survived without brain damage. During those 43 seconds while your biological functions were suspended, we established a quantum link with your neural tissue. We implanted the Archive Foundation protocols. Not memories. Not yet. But the framework that would allow you to access them when needed. When you were in the right place. When you were here. You violated my mind. You put things in my head without permission. You gave permission. The voice was gentle now, almost sad. Before your birth, before your species even existed as it does now, we encoded the genetic markers, the biological imperative, into your distant ancestors. Every human carries this echo in their DNA, but only a few can fully manifest it. You're special, Marcus Chen, in ways that have nothing to do with your job title or your social status. Up close, I could see her breathing, the slight movement of her mandibles, the neural lattice crown still pulsing with faint light. But her intrusion into our systems triggered a security protocol that can only be overridden by an authorized archivist. You, Marcus Chen, are now an authorized archivist. You can free her. You can access the entirety of our collected knowledge. You can share it with your species, with all species, or you can choose to seal the archive forever. The choice is yours. My hands trembled as I reached toward the control panel that had materialized beside the cylinder. Why me? Why now? Why not wait another 1,000 years, or 10,000, until humanity was more advanced? The Ascendancy has maintained peace for millennia through military might and political control, but that era is ending. New powers are rising. Old conflicts are reigniting. And in the Void Nebula, in regions your current technology cannot detect, something is awakening, something that predates even us, something we feared and could never understand. The displays shifted again, showing sensor data, anomalous readings, patterns of energy that defied physics as I understood it. We believe it is a weapon created by an even older civilization, a weapon designed to sterilize galaxies. It has been dormant for eons, but the Ascendancy's expanding research into dark energy manipulation is disturbing it. In perhaps 5 decades, possibly less, it will activate. When it does, every civilization in this galaxy has roughly a 15% chance of survival. 15%. The number was so clinical, so cold. Billions of lives reduced to a probability. Unless they have access to our archives. To our 4 billion years of accumulated knowledge. To technologies and strategies we developed when facing similar existential threats. We cannot guarantee survival, Marcus Chen, but we can improve the odds. We can give your galaxy a fighting chance. I looked at the princess, this alien being whose life I held in my hands. I thought about Jaccara, waiting for her sister to come home and read her bedtime stories. I thought about the queen, who would incinerate worlds to save her daughter. I thought about my parents, long dead, who had raised a son they never knew was carrying the genetic seeds of an alien archive in his DNA. If I activate this, if I take on this role, what happens to me? You become more than you were. You gain access to knowledge that will transform your understanding of existence. You also gain responsibility, the weight of preserving and sharing that knowledge wisely. You will not age as normal humans do. The quantum entanglement with our systems will extend your lifespan considerably. You will become, in essence, a bridge between the dead past and the living present. I'll outlive everyone I know. Yes, I'll be alone. No, there are others like you being activated across the galaxy for other archives. And, more importantly, you will have the princess. What? Zavara triggered our systems because she was searching for a way to save her people from a plague we detected in Ascendancy genetic code, a slow degradation that will render them sterile within 8 generations. She sought our medical database. In accessing it, she proved herself worthy of archivist status as well. If she consents, if you both consent, you will share this burden. You will work together. The absurdity of it struck me, a human logistics coordinator and an alien princess, partnered by ancient protocols to save the galaxy from a threat decades in the future. I almost laughed, but the sound died in my throat when I saw the princess's eyes open. She looked directly at me through the translucent barrier, her gaze sharp and aware. The barrier had become one-way glass from her perspective, I realized. She'd been conscious, listening, for who knew how long. I pressed my hand against the control panel. It responded to my touch with a warmth that felt almost alive. I'm going to need help understanding all this. I'm going to make mistakes. I might not be what you need me to be.
You are exactly what we need you to be.
Uncertain, humble, aware of your limitations. The greatest catastrophes in history have been caused by those who were too certain of their righteousness. The archivist's voice softened. Free her, Marcus Chen. Begin your work. Save the daughter first. Then we will work together to save the galaxy. I activated the release protocol. The princess emerged from the containment cylinder like a warrior queen rising from a throne, her exoskeleton gleaming in the archive's blue light. She stood at her full height, nearly 2 meters taller than me, and for a long moment simply stared down with those 8 penetrating eyes. Then she did something I never expected. She knelt. You saved my life, she said, her voice transmitted directly into my neural implant with crystal clarity. By ascendancy law, I owe you a blood debt that can only be repaid with my own life or equivalent service. I am yours to command, Marcus Chen of Earth. That's not... I didn't... Please stand up. The words tumbled out awkwardly. I'm not your master. I'm barely even understanding what's happening here. She rose gracefully, her head tilting in that gesture of curiosity I'd seen in her younger sister. You accepted the Archivist protocols. I felt the system respond to your authorization codes. Yet you claim ignorance? Because I am ignorant. I found out about all this about 10 minutes ago. I ran my hands through my hair, a very human gesture of frustration. Look, Your Highness. Shivera. If we are to work together, titles are unnecessary. Zavara, then. Did you hear what the Archivist said? About the plague in your species' genetic code? Her posture stiffened. I heard. I had suspected something was wrong. Our birth rates have declined subtly over the past millennium. Medical experts attributed it to environmental factors, to the stress of maintaining a galactic empire, but I accessed classified research that suggested something deeper, something in our very biology. She moved to the central platform, her 4 hands dancing across holographic controls with practiced ease. That is why I came here, why I risked triggering the defense systems. My species is dying, and no one wants to acknowledge it. Data streams filled the air around us, genetic sequences, medical analyses, projections showing the Ascendancy's population curve plummeting toward extinction, 8 generations in the future, roughly 2,000 years by their slower reproductive cycle. The archive has the cure? I asked. The archive has documentation of 17 similar genetic plagues that affected species during its creator's era. 12 had solutions. 5 did not. Zavara's voice remained steady, but I could hear the tension beneath it. I will not know which category my people fall into until I complete the analysis, a process that requires full archivist access, which you now have. Which we now have. The system's protocols are clear. 2 archivists are required for major data releases, a safeguard against corruption or misuse by a single individual. You can access the military and technological databases. I can access the medical and biological archives. But to retrieve the cure, or to share any knowledge with the galaxy, we must both agree. The weight of that responsibility settled on my shoulders like a physical burden, so we're forced to work together. Not forced. Chosen. The archive selected us specifically because our perspectives differ. I am royalty, trained in leadership and strategy, accustomed to making decisions that affect billions. You are... She paused, and I could almost see her searching for diplomatic phrasing. You have lived a life among those billions. You understand consequences at the individual level in ways I cannot. You're saying I'm ordinary. I am saying you are essential. She moved closer, her towering form somehow less intimidating up close. My mother would burn worlds to save me. She would sacrifice billions for one daughter. I love her for it, but I also recognize the danger in that kind of love. You have no such attachments to me. If you believe sharing certain knowledge would harm more than help, you will refuse me. And that balance is precisely what this situation requires. I thought about Jakara's small hand in mine, her whispered plea. Your sister was very persuasive. I don't think I could refuse her anything. For the first time, something like warmth entered Javara's voice. Jakara has always been the diplomat in our family. I am the warrior. Between us, we balance our mother's fire. She gestured to the surrounding holographic displays. The archivist mentioned a weapon, something awakening in the Void Nebula. Show me. I approached the controls hesitantly, not entirely sure how to operate them. But the moment my fingers touched the interface, knowledge flooded in, not downloaded but remembered, as if I'd always known how to navigate these systems, and simply needed to be reminded. The sensation was dizzying and exhilarating in equal measure. The displays reconfigured, showing a 3-dimensional map of the Void Nebula. Deep within its core, something massive pulsed with dark energy readings that spiked off the scale. The archivists called it the Devourer, I said, the words coming from memories that weren't mine but were becoming mine. Built by a civilization that existed when the universe was younger, hotter, more violent, they were fighting a war against enemies that consumed stars for fuel. This weapon was their final gambit, a device that creates cascading quantum decoherence across entire sectors of space, breaking down matter at the subatomic level. Zavara's exoskeleton had gone pale. How do we stop it? It can't be stopped once activated. I pulled up more data, my hands moving with growing confidence across the alien controls, but it can be redirected. Archivists developed a containment protocol that would channel its destructive energy into a pocket dimension, essentially creating a prison for the blast. The calculations are complex. The technology required doesn't fully exist yet in any current civilization, but it could be built. It would require cooperation between multiple species, the Ascendancy's energy manipulation technology, human quantum computing, the Kresh thermal regulation systems, Pelothian dimensional mathematics. I trailed off, seeing the pattern. It would require the entire galactic assembly working together. Not without immediate visible threat. Zavara's mandibles clicked in what I was learning to recognize as frustration. The assembly is held together by treaties and mutual benefit, but underlying tensions run deep. My mother maintains peace through military superiority, not genuine alliance. Then we make the threat visible. I pulled up the sensor data showing the Devourer's awakening timeline. We have approximately 50 years. We use that time to selectively share knowledge from the archive, technologies that improve life, solve problems, demonstrate the value of cooperation. We build trust. And when the threat becomes undeniable, we present the solution that requires everyone to work together. 50 years of careful diplomacy and knowledge distribution. Zavara studied me with new interest. For a logistics coordinator, you think like a strategist. I optimize systems. This is just a very large, very complicated system. I felt a strange confidence growing, the archive's knowledge integrating with my own experience in ways that felt natural, almost meant to be. But first we solve your people's plague. We prove the archive's value with something concrete. We give your mother a reason to trust this process. You would prioritize my species over the larger threat? I'm prioritizing immediate need over future danger. The plague won't kill your people for 2,000 years, but it's killing hope right now. Every generation watching birth rates decline, wondering if they'll be the last. If we cure that, we demonstrate the archive's power and we gain the Ascendancy's full support. Your mother becomes an ally instead of a potential obstacle. Zavara's mandibles spread in that expression I learned was a smile. Perhaps the archive chose its archivists more wisely than I first believed. She moved to a different console, calling up genetic data. Very well, Marcus Chen. Let us save my species. Then we will discuss saving the galaxy. We worked through the night, or what passed for night on the archive, time becoming meaningless in the eternal blue glow. Zavara's expertise in biology, combined with my unexpected aptitude for pattern recognition, and the archive's knowledge filled the gaps in both our educations. We found it buried in the medical database, the Kirshell plague, which had afflicted a species called the Harmonics roughly 2 billion years ago. The genetic markers were 92% identical to what was affecting the Ascendancy. The cure had required targeted viral therapy combined with systematic genetic recalibration across the entire population. This will take decades to implement fully, Zavara said, her voice tight with restrained emotion, but it will work. My people will survive. Your people will thrive, I corrected. The therapy doesn't just cure the plague, it optimizes genetic expression. Future generations will be healthier, stronger, more resistant to disease. She turned to me, and I saw moisture gathering in her lower eyes, the Ascendancy equivalent of tears. You have given my species a future. I will not forget this debt. It's not a debt. It's what the archive is for. Preserving life, protecting knowledge, giving civilizations a chance to survive. I felt the truth of those words resonating through the quantum link with the archive, through the ancient protocols encoded in my DNA. This is what we were chosen for, Zavara.
Both of us.
This is our purpose. She reached out with one hand and I met it with mine, human and alien fingers intertwining in a gesture of partnership that transcended species. Then let us fulfill that purpose together, she said. Let us show the galaxy what is possible when the past and present unite. The archive's systems hummed with approval, lights pulsing in patterns that seemed almost joyful. Somewhere in the vast databanks, knowledge waited to be discovered, technologies that would reshape civilizations, answers to questions not yet asked. And, at the heart of it all, two unlikely archivists stood ready to bridge the gap between the ancient dead and the living present. The return to the Ascendancy homeworld was nothing like my arrival. The whisper of dawn emerged from faster-than-light travel with Princess Zavara standing beside me on the bridge, her presence transforming the scout vessel into something that felt more like a diplomatic cruiser. Through the viewport, the massive planet Kethvera dominated the view, a world of purple oceans and silver landmasses, ringed by orbital habitats that sparkled like jewels against the darkness. "I have sent word to my mother," Zavara said, her lower hands moving across communication controls with practiced efficiency. "She has assembled the full court to receive us. I should warn you, the reception may be intense." Define intense. Traditional ascendancy gratitude ceremonies involve ritual scarification, blood oaths, and the offering of one's third-born child to the benefactor's service. She paused. My mother mentioned all three in her response message. I nearly fell out of my seat. "I can't accept someone's child." I advised her you would likely decline. She seemed disappointed but understanding. Zavara's mandibles twitched in what I'd learned was amusement. "She also offered you a noble title, estates on 17 worlds, and a position as her personal advisor, with full authority to command the Ascendancy fleet. I'm a logistics coordinator. You are the human who saved her daughter and discovered the cure for a plague that threatens her entire species. In her eyes, you are something far greater than any title she could bestow." Zavara moved to stand beside my chair, her towering form casting shadows across the control panels. "You must understand, Marcus, the Ascendancy's culture revolves around honor, debt, and loyalty. What you have done creates an obligation that transcends normal political relationships. My mother will insist on repaying you in ways that make you uncomfortable. It is her nature. I don't want estates or titles, I just want to help implement the cure. Then tell her that. She will respect direct honesty more than political maneuvering." Zavara's tone softened. "She is formidable, yes, but she is also a mother who thought she might never see her daughter again. Prepare yourself for emotion as well as ceremony." The landing was precise, guiding us to the Grand Plaza, an open-air space the size of a city district, surrounded by crystalline towers that reached toward the purple sky. As the whisper of dawn's landing gear touched down, I saw through the viewport that thousands of Ascendancy citizens had gathered, their exoskeletons gleaming in the light of their yellow sun. At the center of the plaza stood Queen Jakara herself, flanked by her royal guard and court officials, and besides her, holding her mother's hand, was young Jakara. The airlock cycled. Zavara descended first, moving with the confident grace of royalty returning home. I followed, my legs unsteady on the unfamiliar gravity, my heart pounding as thousands of eyes turned toward me. The queen didn't run. Ascendancy royalty never ran, but she moved faster than I'd thought possible for a being of her size, crossing the plaza in seconds and wrapping all four arms around her daughter in an embrace that spoke of relief and love beyond words. The crowd erupted in a sound I'd never heard before, thousands of mandibles clicking in unison, a rhythmic percussion that resonated through my chest. Young Shkara broke free from the guards and ran to her sister, her small form practically bouncing with excitement. "You came back! He found you. The human found you." Queen Zarkara released her eldest daughter and turned her attention to me. I'd thought her intimidating in the Hall of Convergence. Here, on her homeworld, surrounded by her people, she was absolutely terrifying. She approached slowly, deliberately, each step measured and controlled. Then she knelt. The crowd went silent. The royal guard stiffened in shock. Court officials exchanged glances of disbelief. "Marcus Chen of Earth," the queen said, her voice carrying across the plaza through amplification systems I couldn't see. "You have returned my daughter to me. You have brought hope to my people where there was only despair. I offer you my gratitude, my loyalty, and the eternal friendship of the Ascendancy. Name your price, and if it is within my power to grant, it shall be yours." I stood there, acutely aware that anything I said would be heard by thousands, probably broadcast across the entire planet. The weight of the moment pressed down on me like atmospheric pressure. "I don't want payment, Your Majesty," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I want partnership. The cure for your people's plague exists in the archive, but implementing it will require cooperation with other species. The viral therapy needs components that only the Kresh can synthesize." The genetic recalibration requires computational power that only human quantum systems can provide. And the delivery system needs Pelothian dimensional technology to reach every member of your species, even those in distant colonies. The Queen rose, her eyes studying me with new intensity. You ask the Ascendancy to share our medical crisis with other species, to show weakness? I ask the Ascendancy to demonstrate leadership, I countered, to show the galaxy that cooperation produces results that no single civilization can achieve alone. Your cure becomes proof that the Archive's knowledge works best when shared, when species work together instead of competing. Zavara stepped forward, standing beside me in a clear gesture of support. Mother, the human speaks wisdom. The Archive has knowledge that could transform every civilization in the galaxy, but accessing it requires two archivists working in concert, one Ascendancy, one human. This is by design. The ancient civilization that built these archives understood that no single species should hold such power alone. You trust him? The Queen asked her daughter. After knowing him for mere days, I trust what he has already proven. I trust the Archive's judgment in choosing him. And I trust that his species, for all their weaknesses, has a remarkable capacity for cooperation that our people should learn to emulate. Javara's voice carried confidence I envied. He optimizes systems, Mother. Let him optimize this one. Young Jakara tugged on her mother's hand. I like him. He has kind eyes. Like the ones in the stories you tell me about the ancient heroes. The Queen looked down at her youngest daughter, and something in her expression softened. You are both conspiring against my better judgment. But there was warmth in her voice, not anger. She turned back to me. Very well, Marcus Chen. You shall have your partnership. I will contact the Kresh Confederation and the Human Assembly. We will present your proposal for cooperation, but I insist you accept at least one honor. You cannot save a princess and cure a plague without some recognition. My people would never forgive me. Before I could protest, she gestured, and a member of the Royal Guard approached carrying a small crystal case. Inside was a pendant, a simple silver disc engraved with intricate patterns that I recognized from the Archive as ancient Ascendancy symbols. The Star of Kethvara, the Queen explained, lifting it from the case with reverent care, given only to those who have performed service beyond measure for the Ascendancy. In our entire history, it has been awarded 43 times. You will be the 44th recipient, and the first non-Ascendancy being ever to receive it. She placed the pendant around my neck herself, her hand surprisingly gentle for someone so large. The metal was warm against my skin, and as it settled into place, I felt something shift. A subtle change in how the gathered Ascendancy looked at me, how the Royal Guard's posture adjusted from wary to respectful. Thank you, Your Majesty, I managed. I'll try to be worthy of it. You already are. She stepped back, addressing the crowd now. Let it be known across all our worlds. Marcus Chen of Earth is a friend to the Ascendancy, a savior of our people, and an honored guest in our realm. Any who offer him harm offer harm to me. Any who offer him aid serve the throne. The crowd erupted in that clicking percussion again, louder this time, and I understood it was approval, celebration, acceptance. I'd come to this planet as a nobody, a confused human pulled into events beyond his understanding. I was leaving as something else entirely. Young Jakara bounced up to me, her excitement barely contained. Will you come visit us again? Can you show me the Archive? I want to see where my sister was. Jakara, her mother warned gently. The Archive is not a tourist destination. Actually, I said, an idea forming. Maybe it should be. Not for tourists, but for students. The Archive contains 4 billion years of accumulated knowledge. What if we established an academy there? A place where young people from all species could come to learn, to study together, to prepare for the challenges ahead? Training the next generation to carry forward the work we've begun. Jakara could be in the first class if her parents approve. Learning alongside human children, Kresh youth, Pelothian scholars, all of them growing up with the Archive's knowledge and with friendships that cross species boundaries. The Queen considered this, her mandibles moving in thought, an ambitious vision, one that would require significant resources and coordination between governments, one that would prove the concept works before we ask those same governments to coordinate on the larger threat, I pointed out. Start small, demonstrate success, then scale up. You think like a politician, the Queen observed. I think like someone who spent years optimizing supply chains. It's all about sequential dependencies and resource allocation. For the first time since I'd met her, Queen Jakara laughed, a strange chittering sound that was somehow warmer than I expected. Perhaps the archive chose you precisely because you are not a politician, or a warrior, or a scientist. Perhaps it needed someone who could see the practical path through the complexity. She gestured toward the palace complex that dominated one edge of the plaza. Come, we have much to discuss, and you both must be exhausted. The court can wait. Tonight, you dine with family. The private dining chamber was smaller than I expected, intimate even, with walls that displayed slowly shifting images of ascendancy landscapes, silver forests under purple skies, vast oceans reflecting multiple moons, mountain ranges that stretched beyond the horizon. The table was low by human standards, and I sat cross-legged on cushions that had been specially provided for my anatomy. Queen Jakara had changed from her formal regalia into something simpler, though still elegant, robes that draped across her exoskeleton in layers of midnight blue and silver. Her neural crown remained, but the other symbols of office had been set aside. Zavara sat to her right, and young Zakara to her left, with me positioned across from the queen in a spot that somehow managed to feel both honored and informal. The food was challenging. Ascendancy cuisine relied heavily on mineral compounds that tasted like I was eating flavored rocks, though the palace chefs had attempted to prepare some dishes with human physiology in mind. I did my best to appear appreciative. "You don't have to eat that," Javara said, noticing my struggle with something that looked like crystallized moss. "We understand our foods are not compatible with human digestion." "It's fine," I insisted, then nearly choked when the moss dissolved in my mouth with a burst of what tasted like carbonated copper. Young Jakara chittered with laughter. The queen gestured, and a servant brought out what looked more promising: actual protein, vegetables that weren't metallic, and something that resembled bread. "We had our xenobiologist prepare a human-compatible meal for you." "We should have led with that. My apologies." "No apology needed. I appreciate the hospitality." I took a careful bite of the protein. It tasted like chicken, though I knew it couldn't possibly be, and relaxed slightly. "Your Majesty, can I ask you something?" "You have earned the right to ask me anything." "Why did you really threaten to dismantle Earth if I refused to go to the archive? Were you serious, or was that just pressure?" The chamber went quiet. Even young Jakara stopped eating, watching her mother with wide eyes. The queen set down her utensil, a three-pronged implement designed for her mandibles. "The truth? I don't know." In that moment, facing the possibility that my daughter was lost forever, I believe I was capable of anything, including atrocities that would have haunted me forever. She met my eyes directly. "Does that frighten you?" "But it also makes you someone I can understand. I don't have children, but I can imagine what that fear feels like, what that desperation could drive someone to do." "My mother loves fiercely," Javara said quietly. "It is her greatest strength and her greatest danger. The ascendancy has remained powerful for millennia because she will sacrifice anything to protect her people. But that same intensity could destroy diplomatic relationships, could start wars, could make enemies where there should be allies." "Which is why she needs advisors who will tell her when she's wrong," I said. "Which is why the archive needs two archivists who can check each other. No one should have absolute power, not even with the best intentions." Queen Zakara's mandibles spread in a smile. "You lecture me on leadership in my own home, human. You are either very brave or very foolish. Probably both, Your Majesty." Young Zakara spoke up, her voice bright with curiosity. "Marcus in the archive. Did you see stories? The archivist said they preserved art and philosophy, not just technology." "Are there stories from 4 billion years ago? Epics about heroes who saved their worlds, tragedies about civilizations that fell, comedies about daily life in times so ancient your world hadn't formed yet?" I pulled up my neural interface, accessing the archive's literary database. "Would you like to hear one?" "Yes, please. Jakara, Marcus is our guest, not your storyteller," her mother chided. "Actually, I'd like to," I said. "If that's all right with you, Your Majesty. I'm still learning to navigate the archive's systems, and sharing content helps me understand how to access and translate it properly." The queen gestured permission, and I closed my eyes, letting the archive's knowledge flow through my consciousness. I found a story labeled as appropriate for young minds, a tale about a small creature who saved an entire ecosystem by noticing what others overlooked, by valuing seemingly insignificant details that proved crucial. I told it aloud, my voice finding a rhythm as the ancient narrative unfolded. The words came from memories 4 billion years old, translated through my mind into language Jakara could understand, bridging an impossible gulf of time and space. She listened with rapt attention, her eyes wide, occasionally interrupting with questions that showed a sharp intelligence beyond her years. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "I want to study at your academy. I want to learn all the stories." "Then you shall," her mother said. "When Marcus and your sister establish this school, you will be among the first students." "I promise." Zavara reached across the table, her hand finding mine. "Thank you," she said simply. "For giving my family hope, for giving my people a future, for being exactly what we needed when we needed it most." I squeezed her hand, this alien princess who had become my partner in the strangest mission I could have imagined. "We're just getting started. The cure, the academy, the preparations for the Devourer, it's all ahead of us. 50 years of work." 50 years, the Queen mused. "A lifetime for your species." Barely a generation for mine. In that time, much will change. The galaxy will transform around the knowledge you choose to share. She stood, moving to the window that overlooked her capital city, millions of lights spreading across the landscape below. "I have ruled for 3 centuries. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have maintained peace through strength and fear. But perhaps it is time for a different approach. Perhaps cooperation could achieve what dominance cannot." "It's not about choosing one or the other," I said, standing to join her at the window. "It's about knowing when to use strength and when to extend a hand. The archive gives us tools, but wisdom in applying them, that we have to develop ourselves." "Spoken like someone far older than your years, Marcus Chen. I'm carrying 4 billion years of memories in my head. They're bound to rub off eventually." She laughed again, that warm, chittering sound. "You have indeed changed much in a very short time. The frightened human who stood before the assembly seems like a different person entirely. I feel like a different person. I am a different person. I touched the star of Kethvara hanging around my neck. But I'm still learning what that means. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to need guidance, both from you and from Zavara. And you shall have it. You are not alone in this, Marcus. Never forget that." Young Jakara had fallen asleep in her chair, her small form curled up on the cushions. Her mother lifted her gently, cradling her with the same care I'd seen human parents show their children. "She dreams of your stories now, of ancient heroes and impossible quests." The Queen looked at me over her daughter's sleeping form. "Help me make those dreams reality. Help me build a galaxy where cooperation triumphs over conflict, where knowledge defeats ignorance, where the future is something to anticipate rather than fear." "That's what the archive was built for," I said. "That's what we're here to do." As the Queen carried Jakara to her chambers, as Zavara and I stood together looking out over the alien city, I felt the weight of purpose settling into my bones. I'd come to this planet as a confused, reluctant participant in events beyond my control. I was leaving as an archivist, a teacher, a bridge between species, carrying the hopes of billions. The journey ahead would be long. The challenges would be immense. But for the first time since this whole impossible adventure began, I felt ready to face them. The galaxy needed saving. And somehow, impossibly, I was part of the team that would do it.